Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. I'm Gavin Schall, and today we'll discuss a big win over the Pelicans, the power of the Knicks' big three, and how Josh Hart and Immanuel Quickley are rapidly becoming one of the best bench duos in the NBA.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. If you didn't know, now you do. We are available on all platforms, and that includes on YouTube. So if you want to go see my smiling face, Alex Wolf's smiling face, go tune in there and be sure to subscribe and be sure to click the notifications bell so you never, ever miss an episode. But who's talking to you? I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, covering the Long Island High School basketball championships right now. In fact, if you want a little bit of a Knicks connection on Tuesday night, I am going to be broadcasting Chaminade against St. Anthony on the Varsity Media Sports Network. And Chaminade features David DeBuscher, who is the grandson of Knicks legend Dave DeBuscher, and he got a shout out on the MSG broadcast during the Pelicans game. So that was kind of cool. So if you want to tune into that, check out the Varsity Media Sports Network on YouTube. But without further ado, let's get into the real reason you guys are here. The New York Knicks, a 128-106 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans, and it was a show-out game for the Knicks' big three: Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, combining for 73 points between the three of them. Julius with 28, 7, and 5. RJ with 25, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds. And Jalen Brunson, 20 points. I'm going to start with RJ Barrett because this was one of my favorite games we've seen from him all season long. Finished with those 7 assists after a quick scan here, a season high for RJ Barrett. And I feel like, that is usually the number I look for as the bellwether on top of his overall shooting and free throw attempts for whether or not, I know now I'm just listing every positive stat, but as kind of the bellwether for whether or not RJ had a good game. What I'm looking for on the court, particularly, is how many times he sets up Mitchell Robinson, because that is representative of two things for RJ Barrett. One, that he's not settling, that he's playing kind of that physical bounce off you, almost running back style type of game, attacking the basket. And once he gets there, he's not blindly throwing up shots over centers when he doesn't have to, and is instead finding his guy, Mitchell Robinson. There were 3 times that RJ did not only assist Mitchell Robinson, he assisted Mitchell Robinson for the best shot in the game, a dunk. It started off early where he just had impeccable pacing on a pick and roll, timing his drive with Mitch's dive, holding 2 defenders in place by how slowly he was going to the rim, and then just a hook lob up to Mitch, and then had another slip under the rim to Mitch for a dunk, and then finally finish it off with in the lane, like a little lefty push pass to Mitchell Robinson for one final jam. But RJ also showed off really nice 2-man get with both Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. As there were just like a number of times throughout the game, those guys set each other up. Brunson had one of my favorite passes of the season for him, where he was doubled by Jonas Valanciunas, and I'm trying to remember, the other defender might have been Herb Jones, and he kind of pivoted one way, faked towards Grimes at the top of the key. And that was sort of a message to Valanciunas to say, all right, this isn't a 5-alarm fire. I'm going to get back into the lane. Some Brunson single team just reverse pivots and just kind of in midair corkscrews it over to RJ Barrett. And after he noticed that, 1, Jonas hit the lane, 2, that Brandon Ingram was back in the paint, RJ drained the right wing 3. And then RJ actually returned the favor. Oh, so I got my plays mixed up. This was the play that Brandon Ingram was sitting in the paint, and it was 2 help it was 2 passes away. So Ingram kind of felt comfortable being like, all right, just in case RJ wants to drive, I'm going to be here to swat it. And RJ just bulleted a pass to the opposite wing to Brunson for a triple. And then Julius set RJ up for a couple of threes as well. So all three of those guys helping each other out. And, we've been a little down, a little negative on this podcast of late on RJ Barrett, I think with good reason. But this is the kind of game, and to a lesser extent last night or the other night's game against the Wizards, that gives you hope in who RJ Barrett is and who he can be. And also just the big three as a collective concept, because I think we all kind of acknowledged coming into the season that more likely than not, it was going to be a bit of a clunky fit, right? 3 lefties, 3 guys who all prefer to operate inside the arc. And what's made it work is that Julius Randle at one point this year was lead for at least a 2-month stretch, was leading the league in 3-point attempts and hitting them at a good enough volume. It was that Jalen Brunson significantly upticked his attempts on self-created 3-pointers, while not only maintaining his accuracy, but actually increasing his accuracy pretty dramatically on those shots. And then RJ just is kind of been the turd in the punch bowl and hasn't really done his part to make that pairing or that trio work. But tonight he did. And all he really has to do is get downhill, be selective about when he shoots, be selective about when he passes, and just generally read the game versus predetermining what he is going to do with the basketball. And I thought tonight he did a great job of that. And it really showed up, not just in the plays that I've already mentioned, but just in his scoring variety. Had this one. It's just his first bucket of the game was a move that I'm sure he's done this year. I don't even remember seeing from him this year, where he went behind the back, between the legs, step back for a midi. Hasn't taken a lot of those. And you knew when that went in on the first shot, I was like, all right, either he's going to shoot a bunch and this is going to be the high point, or we're in for a really good night from him. And then was surrounded by 3 defenders, had this awesome change of pace where he just burst right through them, galloped to the rim for a layup, curled his way into a left wing 3, used his size to bully Jose Alvarado, was playing with some pace defensively, had a nice righty finish between 2 defenders. The only thing I didn't like from RJ is at times he was trying to force the issue versus mismatches and committed 2 pretty blatant offensive fouls. And look, if someone occasionally gives up their body and takes a charge on you, that's fine. But these were plays where RJ just didn't have to hold on to the ball for such a long time. As kind of bully ball, commit a foul. And there's a fine line there for RJ, right? Because when someone like Alvarado's on him, I want him to go at the matchup, but he's just not quite as skillful as a Julius Randle at matchup hunting. And I still don't love it when Julius pounds the heck out of the basketball, but given how efficient he is this year and given how often he is doing that to pass rather than to score, I can be content with that balance from Julius Randle. From RJ, it is a little bit different. All right, so I want to come back. I want to say a couple more things about Julius Randle's night, because he followed up arguably his best game of the season with another banger and another monster first quarter for one of the best first quarter scorers in the entire NBA. But before we get to that, I want to tell you guys all about our friends at PrizePicks. Tonight, I am going to take against the Boston Celtics. So big game. I am taking Jalen Brunson over 24.5 points. I think he is a really, really big night. I am taking Julius Randle over 3.5 threes made. I think the hot shooting is not stopping anytime soon. And I am going to take Immanuel Quickley over 3.5 assists. I think he is going to have quite the night as a playmaker. So how does it work? All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So it's no competing against other people, just you versus the projections available. And PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you can watch, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. They offer safe and fast withdrawals, and are currently operational in over 30 states, and most importantly, Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $150. And with that, we are back on the Locked On Knicks podcast. Told you all about RJ Barrett. For Julius Randle, I just thought this was one of his cleanest games of the year. You guys heard with RJ, I have a propensity for being nitpicky. I take pride in being a little bit nitpicky. There was really no nits to pick with Julius Randle tonight. And even in some of his bigger games this year, I'm like, all right, but like he probably shouldn't have taken that shot, or all right, he did some risky passes and there were a couple turnovers, maybe one shot I'd want back. But overall, this was pretty close to a perfect game for Julius Randle. 11 for 20 from the field, 5 for 10 from three. We mentioned the 28 points, the 7 boards, the 5 assists. Fantastic game. Got it started how he seemingly starts all of his great games this year with a super deep three. I promise. I know I keep referencing this on the podcast. At some point this year, I'm going to go back and track the first 3-point attempt of every game for the season for Julius Randle. I'm convinced he's shooting about 70% on them, and it always feels like they're high degree of difficulty, and it just doesn't matter. And then he just got hotter from there. Hit a twisting elbow jumper, hit a straight on three, had 8 points in the first 2 minutes and 5 seconds, and just felt like he was. I mean, so often it's Jalen Brunson, but tonight it was absolutely Randle just setting the tone that this game was never going to be close. And it ultimately wasn't, as the Knicks got way up early. It was 42-16, or 42-26, excuse me, after the first quarter. It was 51-28 early in the second. They got by 40, or not by 40, by 30 in the fourth quarter. But at one point it looked for a moment, right, like the Pelicans, despite Julius nearly burying them with those 4 threes in the first quarter. It looked like the Pelicans had a little life. They got back-to-back transition buckets off of Jose Alvarado being his annoying. I'm sure I would say lovely if he were a Knick self, and forcing 2 turnovers. And the Pelicans got out and ran. It was 94-78. Tibbs calls a timeout, runs a set to get Julius a mismatch in the post on Josh Richardson. Julius attacks the mismatch, scores a layup easily, and from that point, the Knicks kind of never looked back from that point, right? It was not much of a ball game from there on out, and that's kind of the Randle we've gotten this year. Someone who can punish you if you're daring enough to throw a guard on him, and then just the unselfishness and to me, like I just noted earlier, the bellwether for RJ, like how often is he getting to the lane? How often is he getting lobs and little slip passes to Mitchell Robinson for dunks? For Julius Randle, what I look for is how early is he passing the basketball? And sure, there are some great possessions where he draws 2 defenders and then he kicks it out late and sets someone up for a 3 by being patient, by being meticulous. And he hit a play like that today where he kind of just dribbled, waited for the second defender to come, then set up Jalen Brunson, pump fake, 1 dribble to the right, hit a 3-pointer. That's a great play. But what I love even more from Julius Randle is when he's bringing the ball up the court, he says, oh, shoot, Quentin Grimes, like his defender is a step too far away from him. I recognize that. I'm going to put the ball on a line, get it right to his chest, and it got Quentin Grimes going. Quentin Grimes hit a 3, finished 3 for 7 for 9 points in this ball game. All 3 of those shots from distance. And that was Julius Randle getting his guy going in this game. Jalen Brunson, he just didn't have to do that much in this game, right? He finished with 20 points, and he got to that mark with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. And I kind of like, not obviously this wasn't a night off for Jalen, but I like him having a lighter workload as the Knicks progress towards the playoffs, because I think the playoffs, like they were last year for him in Dallas, at least for the first 4 games, are going to be extremely, extremely taxing on Jalen Brunson. I think in that type of setting, the Knicks are going to be relying on him a little bit more than they are on Julius Randle. And I think Jalen Brunson is going to have to be ready for that. And I don't mind if he has a couple of quiet nights here and there, as long as he's fresh when it matters most for the New York Knicks. All right, so since I was rolling solo tonight, I decided to solicit some questions. And instead of a question, I got a fantastic comment from, that is not the right thing, from our guy Orange and Blue at Orange and Blue. I believe it's Mike Blue. Sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, Mike, but I think I'm remembering it correctly. From the old was it? Yeah, it was locker room, and then it was green room days. And then he wants to know. I've been following the IQ/Hart combination for the past 5 games now, and it holds up as an elite production player. The percentages are not sustainable, but they'll be really good. Is this the Knicks' best lineup? I think this was meant to be a question. Brunson, IQ, Hart, Randle, Mitch. Of course, with different combos being really good as well. So first, he noted the combination for the two. So credit to our guy for doing his research here. And I mean, what stands out right off the bat, right? The shooting numbers are incredible. 57% from the field, 50% from three. Josh Hart, 10 for 16 from distance since he became a Knick. And if you're only listening, this is why you have to go check out the YouTube channel, because I have these tweets up and center, and they're covering my face. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. And the duos combined to average 29 points per game, 10 rebounds a game, 5 assists per game, 1.5 steals, 1.2 blocks in 53 minutes of action. So per 36 for the duo, that's 27, 3.5. That's one hell of a player, says Mike Blue. So before I answer his question about that being the Knicks' best lineup, I kind of wanted to go through and say, all right, are they looking like one of the best guard duos in the NBA? So the Celtics, when they're fully healthy, they have Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon, both coming off the bench. I would maybe put that one a little higher just because the scoring talent is better, even if the defense isn't quite as good. The Bucks, despite having some new depth, don't have anything comparable at the guard position. The Sixers have Tyrese Maxey, but I believe they're starting DeAnthony Melton these days, so they don't have two guys like that. The Cavs don't have two guys like that. The Nets have some great depth, but Seth Curry's fantastic, but not quite the two-way play that you get with IQ and Hart. The Heat, no. The Hawks, nah. The Raptors, no way. Malachi Flynn, shout out. The Wizards with DeLon Wright, he is really, really good, though. I think he's been starting for them lately. The Bulls, no. Pacers, no. Magic with Jalen Suggs, he's good, but not that good. Charlotte and Detroit, of course not. So we'll keep it to the Eastern Conference for the sake of time. But my point is, this is a special guard duo. So back to the lineup idea. Brunson, IQ, Hart, Randle, Mitchell, Robinson. Is that going to be the lineup that closes games for the Knicks in the playoffs? So I stated in our little quote unquote midseason, really 3/4 season version of the bold predictions episode that I think ultimately RJ Barrett might not be starting some games in the playoffs. If he keeps playing like he did tonight, he will make me eat my words. And I can still see that. But as far as finishing, I think it could be. And I think there'll be nights where things are clicking for RJ, where his offense justifies his poor defense. But more often than not, you're going to want the two-way play of those guys. And I think you're going to want Hart on the floor late in games for his rebounding more than anything else, because he is absolutely special in that capacity. One, just like another crazy loose ball in this game over the Pelicans that he really had no business getting to. And his fearlessness, just getting to the rim. And I think come playoff time, what you're looking for more than anything else is quick decision-making, whether that is to shoot or to pass. And I think that is just an area where Hart has just a massive advantage over RJ Barrett at this point. I mean, and part of it makes sense, right? He's 5 years older, but at this point in their respective careers, he's far better at that. And in crunch time situations where all the margins get tighter, I think I want him out there over RJ for that reason, plus his defense and rebounding. And quickly, I mean, I think it's weird to say that he's surpassed Quentin Grimes defensively, because Grimes, just from a height and strength perspective, has physical tools that IQ can't match. But IQ, the last like month and a half now, has just been brilliant on that end of the floor. The numbers reflected and suggest that he is the Knicks, or at least right there with Mitchell Robinson, is their single most impactful defensive player. And I think Tibbs is going to honor that, given what Quickley is doing offensively of late. He had another really good game, and I want to talk about it in just a sec. But first, if your New Year's resolution is to eat a little bit healthier. There's only one place for you to go if you don't want to sacrifice on taste. And then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know for me that was an emphasis to eat a little bit healthier this year. But also, like I was already someone who was eating pretty healthy. Like my goal was to bulk up a little bit and put on some weight, and maybe that's not readily apparent for you guys watching on YouTube. But I've been described as having an Andrea Bargnani-esque physique. But you know what? Eating some Built Bars could potentially help with that. So if you're like me, you got to try Built with Built. Healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm honestly not sure how they do it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better, they are healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to the nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter and churros. You can thank me later. All right. As promised, more Immanuel Quickley talk. He had one of my favorite plays in this game, and no, I'm not even talking about the off the backboard lob to Julius Randle for that fourth quarter dunk. So that was certainly the cherry on top of an incredible Knicks win. I'm talking about flashback to I believe end of the first quarter, maybe the beginning of the second. He came over in help for Mitchell Robinson and stripped Jonas Valanciunas, and then just dribbled up the court and banged a right wing three. And I was just kind of thinking, I mean, kind of in line with what I was just talking about with the Knicks having one of the best bench duos in the league. Just how many individual guys in the NBA who come off the bench can make that kind of play with any sort of consistency, right? The defensive acumen, I mean, in terms of the IQ and also just, no pun intended, and the strength of his hands to get the strip on Valanciunas, and then the gutsiness and the skill to dribble up and hit a pull-up three as he did. And I don't think it's something that we as Knicks fans should be taking for granted. Because one earlier this year, he wouldn't really have the confidence to pull it off, maybe on either side of the basketball. But even beyond that, like just the talent, and I still kind of wonder if that guy we saw his rookie year is in there, like someone who like could in a playoff game could shock us and have a 30-point game that could swing a series, because the scoring talent is so apparent. And the emphasis for IQ of late has been more about efficiency than it is volume. He had this 2-game stretch. Like I'm pulling up his game log right now. So I mean, like look at the last 8 games from him: 5 for 10, 6 for 11, 5 for 11, 4 for 8, 6 for 9, 5 for 8, 7 for 15. Right? Doesn't score over 20 once, but also doesn't score less than 13 in either of those games. The last time he went over 25 was back in 2022. It was December 31st against the Rockets when he had 27. The night before against the Spurs, he had 36. If you remember, that was when everyone was out. That game against the Rockets wasn't particularly efficient. The game against the Spurs was pretty incredible. And then the game before that was the one against the Mavs, where he had like 11 assists in the first 15 minutes of the game and was absolutely passing out of his mind. But point being, I think there is an efficient 30-point game in there. I don't think it's needed right now, given all the balance that the Knicks have. I mean, currently looking like the team they were honoring tonight with the 1973 Knicks. But there's more that he can do. All right. As far as other notable stuff, I just loved. I wasn't covering the Wizards game the other night, so for me, this is my first game back, full game back with Mitchell Robinson. Just great to see him running the floor, and I think everyone is getting in on the joy of this team being dominant on certain nights these days. And this game just like I kind of just felt like Mitch's transition dunk was a microcosm for how easy this game was for the Knicks, and that pass from Quickley to Randle off the backboard, right? Like they were treating this like an all-star game at certain points, like essentially just clowning on the Pelicans. Randle hit just this crazy fadeaway in the fourth quarter. These guys were having fun. This was this was a celebration, not just of the 1973 team, but just how well this team is playing at the moment. And I know it's not going to be that easy every night. It's certainly, I don't think it's going to be that easy tonight against the Boston Celtics, but this team has a confidence, a swagger, and not to overdo it with the Josh Hart stuff, but I think that acquisition really solidified things, because now it just feels like the Knicks certainly don't have the ceiling of the Celtics, the Bucks, the Suns, the Nuggets in the Western Conference, but their floor is really, really high, and they don't have a clear-cut weakness right now. And that is a reason for extreme optimism on my end. A massive win for the New York Knicks, and a big one coming up tonight against the Celtics, and we'll have you covered on Locked On Knicks. But until then, we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.